For me personally, I think a lot of times is avoidance of uncomfortable emotions, uncomfortable conversations, uncomfortable things that I don't want to deal with. And so as a result, I like shut it down and just disassociate from it completely. I ended up knowing that I was trauma bonded when I let her abuse be my apology. And as a result, I started realizing step by step as gaslit each other, manipulated each other, controlled each other, everything like that, that this is not where I need to be. And it took me a long time to see that. Like, it took me like months to see that. It took my wife, other people in my life saying, hey, do you not see this? This person is doing this to you. Like, I didn't want to admit it. I wanted to believe the best about the other person because I was love bombing them. Like, they were love bombing me. Like, we were in this like fantastic relationship, like all this kind of stuff. But I didn't want to admit that I was trauma bonded. And it took me a while to actually see it. It took me longer to deal with it and actually cut that person out of my life. I wouldn't say that it's always planned out, but sometimes like in the moment it comes as a thought and it comes as like a quick plan, like just automatically in the head of like, if I do this, it's going to cause this, which will cause this, which will cause this, etc. Yes, for a narcissist, they're not going to change just on their own. Like, they have to get to the place where they acknowledge that they have lies. So when I talk about a higher power, I do talk about God, because God is the person that has worked in my life to be able to help me to see the lies that I had in my life. Has helped me to put me through Wake Up Warriors, helped me to be involved with other people so that I actually begin to see the lies that I have. If it wasn't for God like showing me that and revealing that, then I don't think I'd be changed. I don't think I'd be any better. I think it'd be a ton worse than where I am now. But as a result, I'm growing, I'm changing, I'm getting counseling, I'm getting therapy, I'm working through stuff because of a higher power, of someone else who tried to show me, hey, these are the lies that you have in your life. You can't keep living like this. A lot of times the difference between this is how they feel, how they have any empathy, and what they're willing to do to change. Because typically a narcissist is not going to be willing to do anything to change. They won't have any feelings, and they won't really have any empathy towards other people at all. So a narcissist, in his mind, they're never wrong. They're never going to be wrong. And that's something that you're not going to be able to convince them of typically at all. Sometimes people can convince them maybe through like logic, but typically they can be dead faced with the truth, and they'll completely deny it 100% because they've already lied to themselves so much that they know how to be able to manipulate and move their own mind to be able to believe whatever it might be, even if it's complete lie, complete fabrication, doesn't matter. Being able to actually admit that they did something wrong is almost impossible because they won't admit that because they'll never believe that. So if y'all are separated and he's not helping financially like he should be, like that's also a boundary, and that boundary needs to have consequences. And that's something that you need to consider as you're trying to set up co-parenting or the life that you guys have right now of, hey, this is my rules, this is my boundary, this is where you need to contribute. Like if you actually are going to change, you need to start contributing. Yeah, absolutely. So supply can be anything, but especially when it comes to other people, supply is whatever a narcissist can get out of another person that makes them feel better about themselves. So if they have several people on the side, like that's going to be more supply. It compounds depending on the people and depending on how they interact with them. So ultimately for a narcissist, they might get a high off of having one person in their life being a supply. They probably get a high off of a second person or a third person. The more people, the more danger, the more adrenaline, everything like that just comes across more breaking boundaries, comes across more of a high, more of a supply. So I struggle with this a lot because whenever my wife communicates like how she feels, a lot of times I take a direct correlation to how she's feeling in the moment to being something that I did or something that I caused. And as a result, it'll produce like frustration, it'll produce like anger, it'll get like really like frustrating because I'm like, I didn't mean to do that, or like this, and like it just goes downhill really fast. So like I might get upset when she's trying to explain how she's feeling or what she's thinking, because in my mind, all of a sudden I feel like some form of shame or some form of regret of like, well, she wouldn't be feeling that way if I didn't do this. I don't know how to get out of it, so best response is anger. Best response is pushing away. Best response is degrading the other person. Not healthy, not helpful at all in the relationship, but that's something I still struggle with. So narcissists are awful about helping other people when they're sick. Why? Because that narcissist isn't getting that attention. They're not getting that supply in that moment, and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to help the other person. They don't know what's going to get them their supply. And so as a result, they get really frustrated. They get really abusive at times because what they're looking for is, how can I get this supply that I don't have? This other person isn't giving it to me because of whatever's going on. So they get frustrated at the situation. They get frustrated at the person. Exactly, because that narc wants to feel accepted. They want to feel like they're doing the right thing, so they're going to try to twist and manipulate their thoughts and everything like that to be able to feel like they are the right person and that what they're doing is right, even if they're 100% wrong. So I'd say with some narcissists, they actually stop when the other person's crying. A lot of narcissists, especially those who are high on the narcissist scale or like the sociopath scale, like they actually get supply off of that. They actually get satisfaction, or like someone will have like a smirk when the other person's crying because they finally got that other person to hurt on the level that they think they're hurting at, or something like that. It really is crazy, and it really is awful. Letting go out of any trauma bond is super hard. Like, I remember nights that I would cry. I remember nights that I would like be angry. I remember nights that I was like so pissed off that I no longer had that person in my life because I thought that person was who I was supposed to be with, or who I was supposed to connect with, or the one person that actually could understand me. But it was all a lie. It was all stuff that I put in my head and thought through and became aware of. This isn't actually true. This isn't actually right. It was really hard to let go. And so you have to be able to go through and be like, hey, this is something that's not beneficial to me, that's dragging me down as a person. And you have to be able to start looking through that and looking past that to be like, okay, who am I actually? What do I need to do to grow and mature? And how do I build a lifestyle that's based on me being secure in who I am and not relying on other people? So a perfect example of the narcissist and like the disconnect of, you have a big argument, you have a big fight, step out of the way, they come back, all of a sudden everything's hunky-dory. Like, they're not actually looking to start the fight anymore, they're just looking to move past it because they don't want to dwell on the fact that they hurt you, that they had something that, you know, went wrong in the conversation, that they have to actually admit like their guilt, their shame, their pain, whatever it might be. They just want to be able to move on. If they can push it aside, if they can sweep it under the rug, if they can move on to the next thing, maybe life will get back to normal. Problem is, normal with a narcissist doesn't add up to being beneficial. Trauma bonds are like addictions. Trauma bonds are literally like something you want to go back to even though you know it's not beneficial to you, even though you know it's not beneficial for what it's going to do to your body, to your life, or anything like that. So take like someone who's struggling with alcoholism. Like, they know, hey, if I continue to go back to this, it has a proven track record of how it's hurt and affected my life, my wife, my marriage, things like that. But they'll still go back to it because that pull is still there. It's a strong addiction. It's a strong chemical in their brain that wants to go back to it every single time. It's the same exact thing a lot of times with a trauma bond is, hey, this person's hurt me, this person's abused me, this person's mentally, emotionally, physically, like whatever, but I still want to go back to them because of X, Y, and Z. Like, it's kind of like almost like Stockholm syndrome, is that chemical in the brain becomes an addiction that they want to keep going back to the person that hurt them the most.